What's up out there, YouTube? It's my first time trying to make a video like this. You know, this game is a big release. Kojima, you know, what else needs to be said? One of the most famous developers out there in the world. Everybody knows his work with Metal Gear. A lot has been said about this game already. A lot of reviews have been made. And I feel like I want to drop my 2 cents in, kind of do like a mini quick review. You know, it's not fancy. I don't do all this kind of crazy editing and stuff like that. I'm just a real one that jump right into it. This is my first time trying this, but I want to talk about my 2 cents on this game. So to make sure y'all hear me, I'm gonna turn this volume down so y'all can hear every word I got to say about this game and give y'all my perspective. The type of gamer you don't really see. Well, I can't say that. I don't watch a lot of other YouTubers, but I don't know if there's a lot of people like me being represented with what we feel about this game. You know, I'm just a gamer from the South, who most people would look at it and assume I would never try stuff like this, different stuff. You might just think I play 2K or something like that. But no, I'm a regular dude playing this game. They consider it art. And I'm going to see, you know, I want to talk about it and give my little perspective on what I think about this type of game. Because I'm an open-minded dude. And I play all kind of stuff. But yeah, let's get right into it. I'm going to knock the easiest things to talk about out right away. And that will be the graphics. Right off the bat, this is one of my problems with the game. Perfect that I happen to be opening this menu right now. Graphically, I never did like the interface. I never liked the menu system. Navigating it, but that's more of like a control issue. But and this is something Kojima does a lot. I don't like the font size in his games. It's too small. It's too much on the screen, and the lettering is too small. So as far as the layout of the interfaces and stuff like that, not really my thing. I didn't like that too much, but that's a little nitpicky type thing. Graphically, in the world, I mean, the game looks good. It's on that Decima engine. You know, if you played Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, this game shares that engine. That game, Horizon, looked amazing, and this game is on that level. You know, I wouldn't say it's better than Horizon, but it looks good considering what you're doing. You're just in the open world, a lot of grass and mountains, rain effects and snow effects. So that's what we got going on. The character models look very realistic, especially in the in-game cutscenes. So graphics are not a problem, even though the hub stations like this, the cities, they look a little bland. You never see any real people, and all of them look the same. They just look like little metal buildings that say bridges on the side of them. So that is a little disappointing. And you might get on some of the cities, you might get a little road like this leading up to it with some metallic structures, maybe a vehicle or two. This particular city is one of the larger ones, so you have cranes and everything around. But that's not too spectacular. The grass and everything and the rocks on the terrain are the best looking things. You know, once you get out in the environment, the creatures you fight in the game look pretty good. I won't show them because, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, graphically it's fine, but everybody talks about the graphics. That's one of the easiest things to talk about in review. We know the game looks great. Sound. The game features a lot of quiet moments. You'll be running and hearing footsteps a lot. You know, you'll hear a lot of that metallic clanking sounds when you're carrying your cargo. It all sounds fine. The rain sounds good and realistic. I mean, not a lot of sound effects to really talk about because they want to stress the fact that you're alone in this large empty country, and they get that across pretty well.
Weapons restriction
Musically, there's quite a few songs that kick in during certain moments when you're traveling, making deliveries. Kojima seems to really like this band called Low Roar, I think is the name of them. Low Roar. I can't say that word too clearly with my accent. Low Roar, like a lion. R-O-A-R. You know, not really my type of music I normally listen to, but it fits the mood of the game. Some songs are better than others, but it definitely sets the tone, lets you know that you know, one deep out here, making these deliveries, connecting the world. Voice acting is great. Some characters are better than others. Everybody's decent. There's one character in here that's horrible, that really stood out for being bad, but that's kind of like a, well, it's one of the main missions, so you will come across that section. I'll just say it avoids a young girl who's not a main character and who has an accent. You know, try not to spoil anything if you haven't seen this particular quest yet. Her voice acting was, it definitely left a lot to be desired, but everybody else was pretty much perfect. Character-wise, everybody did a good job. I didn't really like Amelie, mainly because I just didn't like her face. I know that sounds crazy, but I just didn't like looking at her, and I didn't like her, you know, her little Kojima quirks, I call them. Like, every time she came in a cutscene, she would sing London Bridges, you know, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, dude, I don't care about this. But yeah, one of the villains in the game is played by, well, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I guess not, because he was in the preview, I think. Troy Baker, and I gotta say, this is the worst Troy Baker performance I think I've ever experienced. I did not like his character. I did not like his voice acting in this game, which is weird because the dude is a great voice actor, but I didn't like his performance in this game. His character was pretty weak, and that didn't help. But other than that, everybody else was great. My standouts, I would say, of course, are Norman Reedus. That dude, he has that perfect gruff voice tone for this kind of character. Almost kind of like a Solid Snake type deal. Very, very similar to Solid Snake in the way he played the character. So I enjoyed that. Even though his name is weird, but there's a character called Die Hardman. Eventually, he had some good scenes, very good scenes in the game. And Michael Madsen, you know, he did well, but he had some laughable lines. Like, let's just say he used the word BB a lot, and I found that kind of funny as the rain kicks in. But yeah, graphics and sound are fine. I'm dwelling on that a little too long. Let's get to the meat of this game, which is the gameplay. This is what you get. You see what I'm doing right here? I'm carrying cargo up rocky terrain. It's not easy. That little fall looked a little weird right there. The animations, for the most part, look very realistic, very good physics. Make you feel like you're carrying weight. The cargo load can get kind of ridiculous. You'll walk around with like 6 feet of boxes stacked up on your back, and they don't fall somehow unless you do something stupid or get attacked. So you gotta kind of overlook stuff like that. You know, that's the video game part of the video game. But this is what you're doing. You're finding routes to get from city to city, and this is the bulk of the gameplay. There's a little bit of combat in the game, very little. You'll come across a few enemies who try to knock you out and take your cargo and steal it from you, and you can attack their bases and steal from them to earn materials to build structures. Gunplay is pretty good. I mean, decent over the shoulder combat, or you can just throw punches. There's a little bit of gunfighting, over the shoulder combat, but not much else. There are vehicles in the game. We all should know that by now. If you, I mean, the game been out for about a week or two, so y'all probably already seen all the spoilers. But there are vehicles, so you do a little bit of driving. This is what's going to determine if you like this game or not. The biggest part of the gameplay, and what made me go ahead on and get the game, because I had pre-ordered the game, but I canceled the pre-order because I was like, I'm not gonna like this. It was boring. But the fact that you can build things and other players can see the things you built and use them and help them along their journey. And these things, like I'm passing here, other players have built these things. Like, for example, this is a post box where you can leave items for other players or share items that you don't necessarily need. Another player might need. You can leave it in the mailbox and they can pick it up and use it. Or this thing down here is called a time fall shelter, for example, and that helps protect your cargo from the rain, because the rain over time eats away at your cargo and starts to damage it, which is very irritating. But you know, you gotta have something to do, some kind of challenge in the game. That little animation you saw right there where the screen slowed down, that's what happens when you go into, they call BT territory, which is one of the main enemies in the game. They're like ghost-like creatures that you don't want to run up against. They drag you in this black liquid, and then it triggers kind of like a little boss fight, and it makes your life very, very unfun. You lose all your cargo, so you got to be careful. So there's some stealth elements like this, but very weak stealth elements. You know, it's not. See those over there? Those are BTs. When you ping, you can flash them, and you can deal with them stealthily or use gunplay. But you want to try to avoid conflict in this game. It's not really the main focus. Cool things happen as you play the game though. See the footsteps, and they tell you which one is which. Like these blue footsteps, I'm pretty sure that those are my tracks. And the more you walk along a certain path, it starts to make an actual road that other players can see and travel. If you look ahead, you can tell like the grass is starting to turn into like a dirt road, because many players have made this trip along the same route. And if it's a new player, they can see the route and maybe find a better way to get to a delivery station that they might not have found on their own. So everything, little stuff like that sounded cool to me. Everything in the game is about building a community without actually ever seeing the other players. So it's kind of like Dark Souls in a way, but you don't really fight other people, and they don't help you fight. You just really build a world together without sharing. I mean, without seeing each other. And that sounded interesting to me. And that definitely, for the most part, succeeds. I mean, it's cool knowing that you put a ladder down and other people used it and it helped them get to their destination a little bit easier. Like you were the pioneer that made the route. You know, laying the path across America after it has been destroyed by an apocalypse. You know, the thought sounded cool to me. You can also do things like build bridges, of course. The coolest thing is probably building roads, because once you start building actual roads, the game just becomes so much easier to navigate. It takes a lot of materials to build the roads. That's why you can do things like raid the mule camps. Those are the enemies that try to take your cargo, that they call mules. The guys that just get hopped up on stealing cargo for some reason. It's like a drug to them. But you can get some nice, you know, equipment if you manage to take down their camps, which is, it's not that hard to do. Vehicles like this, you know, left by other players, I can hop on it. John SNY, the games, somebody I'll never see or anything, I can just hop on his bike. I can't do it right now because I'm carrying a floating cargo container, which is one element in the game you can craft to help load bigger loads of cargo and not have to carry it on your back. The game does have a very small, simple crafting system where you can build things like the floating carrier, Um, body armor suits that help you navigate terrain easier. Shoes, weapons you might need. You can craft pretty much anything that would help you get through the game. But it's a real simple crafting system. You just go there, spend the little equipment that's at the bases to build the item, and it's yours. So not too crazy, not hard if you're not into that kind of game that takes a lot of finicky with a crafting system. You can pick this up pretty easy once you learn how to navigate that horrible menu system. But the game really just comes down to, are you going to be the type to have the patience to sometimes slowly walk across an environment, avoid being detected, especially early on in the game. I mean, it's really just you and your feet. Once you get a few chapters in, things open up and then you start getting vehicles and stuff like that, and it's a little more, I don't know what to say, maybe a little more fun for some people to be able to drive, get places a little quicker. So I made it through that BT section. That's what that little animation was right there. But I'm still in the rain, eating away at my cargo. If you don't have the patience for this, the game, you know, I can't really recommend it to you. You know, you might just want to, if you're interested in the story, you might just want to watch somebody else play it. Maybe go through the cutscenes. But I guess you're kind of missing out on a certain experience. It's definitely unique. Type of game I never played before. But does that necessarily make it a good game? I don't know. It just depends on what you get out of it. So with that, I'm gonna move on into the story. So, like I said, it depends on what you get out of that story. The story is, I think it's it thinks it's a little grander than it really ends up being. You know, and Kojima, I could tell he really put his heart into the story and really felt like he wanted to say something. Of course, he said he based it on what's going on in America right now with Trump and everything and building walls. So he made a game that focuses on bringing people together, building bridges, so to speak. And he did it, but things in the game kind of I don't know, there were multiple things, and I don't know how well he got his true message across. I mean, he got it there, but it was just a little sloppier than it could have been. You know, I think he could have cleaned the story up a little more. So basically, the characters, if you pay attention to their names, they all have a relevant piece of the story to tell. Like, for example, the main character's name is Sam Bridges. He's the one that connects people. He builds bridges. You had Die Hardman, and there was a reason why his name was Die Hardman. I won't talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it if there's anything left to be spoiled at this point. You know, you had Hartman. Hartman. There was a reason why, and he was actually one of the most. He was one of the most Kojima-like characters because his little story was kind of out there in his scenario with how he was living. It wasn't bad. It was just very, very Kojima type character. You know, he was alright though. Yeah, I think he's called Dr. Hartman or something like that. Then you had a character called Mama. You know, her story was probably one of the weakest ones in some ways. I mean, the first part of her story was cool, but then the second part is kind of like, okay, you know what? Okay, I see what you went for there, but I wouldn't have chose that kind of direction. Kind of ended up in a place I didn't like with her particular story. But there's a reason why she's called Mama. And who else we got? Cliff. Very interesting name. And I guess his name, this is my personal interpretation of his name. You know, Cliff, I don't want to spoil anything, so if you don't really want to hear about Cliff, he's kind of like he's a villain, so to speak. The guy that you saw in all the preview trailers. That's Michael Madsen's character. So I'm going to talk a little about what I think about his name. And I guess it's not too big of a spoiler, but you can skip this part if you don't want to hear it. But Cliff's name, I don't know if Kojima really went for this with his name, but it was interesting because his character represented war. War separates people. Cliffs, cliffs are the end of the land. So when you get to a cliff, you fall off the cliff. So I don't know if Kojima was going for that with his name, but if he did, I thought that was clever. Or maybe it's just my interpretation. So I like that the name Cliff represented a character that was representing war. And his character, his story was probably one of the most interesting things. I'm entering the territory. I don't want to do that right now. This is that Orange Flash was. His story in relation to Sam was one of the more entertaining stories. Even though the scenarios where you run across each other get a little repetitive. I don't want to talk about too much on how you and Cliff encounter each other, but you encounter each other about 2 or 3 times over the course of the story, but you end up doing the same thing over and over when you do encounter each other. And those are some of the more interesting parts of the game, but gameplay wise, you do the same thing. That was a little disappointing, They could have used a little more work on that, made them a little more varied, but his story was good. Amelie, they said what her name meant, and when I was hearing the name Amelie, I figured, I was like, this name probably means something, and it does. She tells you what it means actually. It's something in French. But I just didn't really like her character at all. I didn't like her character, and the way she tied into the game in multiple ways didn't really resonate with me. I feel like she was supposed to represent America. Amelie, kind of like America, and maybe this is another personal interpretation. But, well, I don't want to talk about that because that's kind of a spoiler, a big spoiler. But, well, what was that?
Oh, this is nice.
I never saw that before. That might be a spoiler too. But anyway, her name kind of fits with the theme of the game in a certain way. If you think you can guess what it is, you can leave a comment in the comment section. Guillermo del Toro, his character, what was his name? Hartman, Hartman. I can't remember what his name is right now. I'm going blank, but it did fit his character. Once he gets, each chapter kind of, especially the early chapters, talks about a certain character. Once you get around the middle of the game, they start focusing on each character, and you learn about them and why they have the names they have. And his name made sense after his story, but his character was just like another one of those weird characters, like another very Kojima type character. But once you get to the end of the game, everybody ties everything together story-wise. But like I was saying about the theme of the game, bringing people together, you get there, you bring people together within the game and outside by helping the other players. But then it just didn't, once it got to the end, everything was revealed, and I knew what Kojima was saying, but it just didn't move me like some people said. I see a lot of people saying this game was a masterpiece. It moved me so much. I was brought to tears, and I'm kind of like, well, get a grip. But I don't want to say get a grip, because maybe it did touch certain people a certain way, especially some of the themes that end up coming out in the game. Because, like I said, the game is talking about uniting people, but there's other sub-stories in the game that get resolved with the main characters and with Sam, and certain mini stories in the game probably will touch a lot of people, especially people who may be going through some of those circumstances in a certain way. So maybe one or two of those sub stories kind of had me like, okay, this is good stuff. This is good storytelling. But a lot of other things were kind of like, you could have cut that out. We didn't really need this. It just kind of takes away from the overall experience for me personally. So it's just kind of hit and miss. It was a hit and miss story that ultimately ends up saying what Kojima told us he wanted to say, but had some stumbles along the way getting there. So the story might not satisfy you. I mean, I was okay with how it wrapped up and all the stories and everything. Some more than others. Some I just really didn't enjoy as far as certain characters. But it wasn't horrible. It just wasn't all that great to me either. Kind of a mixed bag. So the main reason you're gonna play this game is for the story, especially the first time you're playing it. Like right now, I'm just running around doing nothing, talking to y'all about it. But I'm in the post game stage right now, so I can pretty much do whatever I want, and the game kind of becomes whatever you want it to be at that point, and that's cool. You know that there is post game mode where you can really just focus on completing the hundreds of deliveries that are optional. What I did my first playthrough was just focus on the main story. I wanted to get the main story done. I didn't want to get sidetracked. A lot of people got sidetracked doing deliveries they didn't really have to do, and they said the game was just so boring in the beginning. But I made a point to just focus on the ones to advance the story, and it moves along quick. The chapters didn't last as long as I were afraid they would. And another thing, navigating across the country. Before I started playing, I was like, how are they gonna make it feel like you're walking across the whole United States? Luckily, it's not that long. I mean, the longest trip from point A to point B might take you about 20 minutes. A lot of the trips that are not super long can be done quicker than that, even on foot. You know, you'll start in like New York or something, but you open the map. Once you get to the next destination, you're all the way in Ohio or something, in that area. But you've only been walking for like 10 minutes. So, and it's even quicker if you're in a vehicle. So they got that part just right. I want to commend them because I don't want to. I was dreading feeling like I was walking for like an hour to get from destination to destination. It's not like that. There are some pretty taxing journeys in the later chapters.
Nice.
I don't want to talk about those areas because, you know, you might not have seen them yet, but they are rough. They are very rough, especially if you're not prepared.
There we go.
But I didn't really struggle all that much ever. You know, I had some challenges, some routes that sometimes didn't work out, but it's always easy to. I never really hit a mountain like up there. I never hit a mountain and just hit a dead end and was forced to go all the way back around. I was always able to find some kind of way to get over the mountain and continue forward. I might have had to take a small detour, but never a huge, oh, I gotta walk all the way back around this mountain, go back all the way down the mountain. I never had that problem. So that was good. Even though the game might be boring to you as walking around, they designed it well. They designed the environment very well as far as navigating. And there, you can take whatever route you want, man. You can take whatever route you want to get to where you want to get. But all in all, you know, if you're curious about the game, you probably might not want to pay full price for it unless you're just like a huge Kojima fan and real open-minded. You might want to just wait for a price drop. And even then, it's the type of game where I don't really know. Excuse me. I don't know who would really like this game. Cause I played it, you know, but can I say I really liked it? I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it. It was just something like, oh, cool. I played it, and I'm glad I played it. But it didn't set my soul on fire, you know. So I would say if you're curious about it, maybe catch it at a discounted price, and just keep an open mind. You might end up loving it. It just depends on, you know, how you relate to the story. Because gameplay wise, this is what you're doing. This is what you are doing. There is no beating around the bush. You are walking and running. And every once in a while you'll maybe throw a few punches to knock out a mule. Or you can shoot him. The game doesn't recommend you shoot him. Unless you use a certain type of ammunition that doesn't kill him. I beat everybody non-lethally.
There we go.
I didn't want to kill anybody. Only because I think they said that if you kill the mules, they'll turn into even more BTs, and I didn't need that in my life. But yeah, that's my take on the game. You know, most people either love it or hate it. I'm kind of in the middle. The lower middle, you know. I would say just, you know, maybe wait for a price drop, play it for a little while, see if you can power through it. As I played through the game, I never really got a feeling of, man, I'm loving this game. It's like, well, it's not horrible. I can keep going. I can make one more than this. The story is just interesting enough to keep me going to the end. So that's kind of where it was for me. I paid full price for it. I don't mind it, you know. But if I had to give it a grade, I would say I would give it a... let's say if I was rating it out of 10. I don't like the 10-point system. Maybe more out of 5. I don't even want to give it a 3 because it's not average. It's not your average game. It's weird. I guess I would give it like a... I would give it like a... I would give it like a 2 point before either. I guess that was me whistling. I'll give it a 2.9, but it's a 2.9 with an asterisk by it, because the game is not horrible. There's nothing about it that's made bad. It's not poorly designed. It's not... the graphics are not bad. It's just an experience type of rating. So, experience-wise, overall, I would give it a 2.9 out of 5. It's just not a game that's going to resonate with a lot of people. It's one of those games that maybe years down the line we'll have to go back and re-evaluate. So it might be looked upon as a classic at some point, but right now it's a little too fresh on our minds, and people are arguing too much about loving it or hating it too much right now. I'm kind of in the middle. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. But I made it to the end, and the story was fine. It was fine. It was not this big wake-up call that I was thinking it was going to be for America, for me at least. I mean, I got the themes of the game, what it was saying, but this game is not going to make people change their lives at this point in time. I wish it would, but hey, we might get Trump for a second term. This game is not going to influence that, unfortunately. Ah, man. So that's my take on it. I hope I didn't ramble on it too long, but if you're curious about getting the game, just be ready. Be ready to play something you've probably never experienced before. A game about walking and delivering and building structures for other people to navigate the land as well as yourself, which was probably the coolest part for me. Just the fact of knowing that people were being helped by me. I think that's what I got the most enjoyment out of in the experience. Feeling like I was helping people. And that's one of the things that he wanted, so it was a success. I'm gonna cut this video off now, and if you listened all the way to the end, thank you for sticking with me. My first type of review type thing about a game. I might start doing things like this again when certain games come out. Cause I'm not just a fighting game player, in case y'all didn't know. I play a little bit of everything. Catch y'all later.